actually can't believe it's almost been 3 months since I released episode 0, but what I can say is I've absolutely loved the journey. I've met so many incredible people as well as listeners who have kindly reached out to me and left reviews. I received a message so profound I thought it'd be nice to share it with everybody. Hi Erica, I just wanted to say thank you so much for creating this podcast. I live in Melbourne and was really struggling with the thought of going through lockdown again, especially while studying at uni online, which I hate, and not seeing my friends. But your podcast has definitely inspired me to reevaluate all aspects of my life and has definitely changed my perspective. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you to that kind listener for reaching out and making my day truly with those words. Today I have the pleasure of sharing with you all my wonderful conversation with none other than the Lillian Khallouf. We track her journey into the fashion powerhouse she is and has today, starting all the way when she was 19, not knowing how to write a cheque or use an EFTPOS machine, to now being featured in Vogue, and really she has just reached a point where she feels successful in her own definition of wealth and success. We have a little chat about the power of words, manifestation, and really her philosophy and recipe on how she got to where she is today. We talk a little bit about who the Lillian Khallouf woman is, although this is an evolving persona. She gives us a little bit of an insight into the qualities that they possess, as well as what's next for the brand, so you'll have to stay tuned for that. Lillian also shared with me what her biggest inspiration has been and what's kept her going for so long. And funnily enough, she also shares what she almost fell into and what she was going to study, which I don't think any of you would have picked, but I was pleasantly surprised. I hope you enjoy the next 40 or so minutes as much as I did, and feel free to like or subscribe or share this episode with anyone if you enjoy it. So welcome to the Balancery podcast.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So I would love for you to share your story of how you fell into fashion, your atelier, how it all came to be, and I guess to where you are today.
Sure. So I come from a family, obviously, of tailors, if you didn't know, and dressmakers. So mum studied a bit of fashion. Dad's been a tailor since school, I think. So it just kind of happened naturally that obviously once they opened up their businesses, I'd always be around. And I'd just pick up a pen and paper and just start sketching and pretending like I had clients. So it just kind of, it was inevitable for me to kind of go down that path.
Yeah. You were dreaming about it from a young age?
Yeah, from a very young age. And then obviously, I lived overseas as a child. So going back and forth, I felt like academically I always struggled because I was learning 2 different languages, 3 different countries. So it was...
Yeah, that would be tough.
The creative part was always just easy for me to fall back on. And then my parents obviously identified that as a young age. So they just kind of pushed me to kind of keep going.
Pursue it.
Yeah, and Dad was cute. Like, I've got books dated back to like 1993 when I was like 7, and you'd see like little markings like 8 out of 10 meant I got $8. If he didn't like the lapel of the jacket, he'd critique it, like shoulder pads, waistlines. So I just kind of visually that was just something I just was always comfortable with, and it just happened naturally.
Yeah.
And then the final time we came back to Australia when I was about 15, 16. I was a bit confused, like which career path do I want to take? And
what were your options at that point?
I really loved science. So I've always been like science, nutrition, the anatomy, all of that sort of stuff was always intriguing. And I loved sports. I was quite athletic as well as a kid. So I had those 2 options to pick from.
Right.
And again, fashion and like art was always my safe thing where I knew that was something
came to you naturally.
I'd always win, you know what I mean? Like there was no effort there.
Yeah.
So I applied for a scholarship whilst I was doing my HSC, and I was quite fortunate. I got selected for a half fee scholarship, which meant they paid half of it and my parents only had to pay the remainder. So it was quite exciting, and it was quite challenging because I was on a scholarship, so it just wasn't like a normal uni or college course. Yeah, because
you had to get the marks.
We were working 6 days a week, and I'd be there at 8 a.m. and I'd leave at 8 p.m. So
sorry, what were you studying?
Fashion design.
Oh, you ended up studying
so
fashion.
I ended up fashion design. So it was cool.
Awesome. And then from that point, so once you finished your studies, were you working for your parents, or did you go out and do your own thing straight away?
Well, at that point there, mum and dad had a bit of a change in their career as well, because they were Australian clothing manufacturers. So at that point there was a bit of a shift in the Australian fashion industry, and a lot of the fashion designers in Australia started to outsource manufacturing overseas.
Offshore, yeah.
So mum and dad kind of lost those contracts, and I was finishing off the diploma part of my degree. And at that point, their dad was like, listen, I really need to kind of reevaluate and reassess and restart. And I was like, what do you mean restart? I had no idea the extent of it then to what I now know of what position they were in. And I kind of, it was just natural. I just literally finished up with the diploma and opened up a business at 19. I had no idea.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's quite scary now to think how quickly I dived into it back then. But I don't know what the hell it was, but I was just...
I think you're just fearless when you're much younger.
Yeah.
You don't think of...
Yeah, but when I look around at my girlfriends back then, there's no way anyone would have done that. But for me, it was just like, oh yeah, let's just sign a lease. And then like back then, it was different to nowadays. Like you'd receive a checkbook.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know how to write a check. And like I remember my landlord was like, excuse me, you're 3 days late on your...
Rent.
And I'm like, oh, okay, how do you, like, I'll just bring some money over. He's like, no, you got to write a check. And I was like, Dad, how do you write a check? It was straight. I didn't even know how to use an EFTPOS machine.
Oh my God.
Like, I didn't even know how to use a proper diary. I didn't know how to schedule. And, you know, before you knew it, I had a full calendar of clients.
You're in Vogue now, and looking back, it's been a long road. So is the business you opened up when you were 19 the same one you're running today?
Pretty much. So the only thing we did was in 2016, I rebranded.
Yeah.
So you can pretty much say the business as a concept has definitely evolved.
Yes.
So initially, like I wasn't a designer, like per se. So it was more, you know, people would come to me with a design and they'd ask me to make it. So I was working on a dressmaker basis.
Yeah.
But you know, obviously that customer experience got me to where I am today. And you know, some stage I realized, you know, there is a big gap in the market, and these women that are struggling to buy things off the rack, you know, I need to find ways to fulfill their needs. And then that's when the Lillian Khallouf brand began in 2016. And it was just my moment to kind of solidify myself as that Australian fashion designer.
Yeah.
Because it takes a long time for people to take you seriously.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I think you've definitely gone to a point where you've proven yourself now, and you've moved more into bridal but I guess you're in 2016 when you took a more niche approach.
Yes.
How could you describe like a Lillian Khallouf woman? What's she look like?
Well, for me, I've always loved dressing that kind of like women in power. You know what I mean? So that
boss
empowering.
lady.
Absolutely. So for me, I've always, obviously, because of my price range as well, like I'm not attracting the average woman. I'm attracting a woman that's quite sophisticated, educated, cultured, a little bit more in tune with her own body as well. So a lot of the women that come to me most of the time are dictating what they do want.
Yeah.
So for me, I love that about that woman, that she has that confidence in herself to kind of pretty much to be certain and tell me exactly what she wants.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she respects me as a professional to take my opinion and my lead to get her to where she needs to be. So that definitely inspired the Lillian Khallouf woman. It inspired the Lillian Khallouf branding and the ethos behind it as well. So it's been an evolution. So I can't really tell you who she is like directly, because you know, my clientele base is so broad. However, they all that possess very similar quality.
Well, they can be the LK woman qualities then.
Absolutely, yes, of course.
So I was having a bit of a read of some interviews you've done in the past, and I came across a really nice quote that I'm going to share with everyone. So it reads, "Even at 7, I would be laying in my bed in Syria, no internet, no YouTube, nothing to show me what the world looked like. And I would close my eyes and imagine my own fashion show. So none of this has felt like a risk." So I think for me personally, when I read that, I just thought even at 7 years old, you were visualizing. And so I guess maybe that can speak to why at 19, you're just signing leases and learning how to write checks, and you're just going for it, because I know you can tell me maybe, but perhaps your process of visualizing that for you, and because it felt so natural to you, you felt like, you know, it was, you were just like living a dream you had already, a path you envisioned for yourself.
To be honest with you, I didn't understand what that meant until the last maybe 5 years. So after turning 30, I really understood the power of my own words.
Yes.
And it's freaky because I was 7 years old and I was this like hyperactive, energetic. Well, nothing's really changed. I'm still
I was going to say, as if it's not really hard to believe.
I was a small girl, but with the big personality.
Yeah.
And Dad would like take me places with him, and I would introduce myself as Lillian Khallouf, the fashion designer. Like we have videos of me sitting down telling people like what they should wear. Or I'd be watching like an Arabic superstar, and I'd be like, oh, she should be wearing those shoes with that bag and whatever. But yeah, like it is freaky because I was this little girl in the middle of Syria at a time that we didn't have internet. We didn't have we had international TV, but Mum was watching like music videos like Madonna and Whitney Houston and Michael Jackson. So that was my only kind of idea of the world where I was born.
Yeah.
You know, because although I went to Syria, I was 3. I was born in Australia. I didn't have much recollection of what Australia looked like.
Life looked like. Yeah.
So I'd associate it with my mother and the music she listened to. But yeah, like I'd be sitting in a room and I'd close my eyes and I'd see like runways and women wearing my stuff, but I wouldn't see myself as the model. I never saw myself as the singer. I saw myself as the woman that would dress them.
The curator.
I'd be dressed in my Barbie. And it was just strange. Like I just accepted that world and that life and just moved on with it.
And so do you think that power of visualization or like your words, like, I don't know if you do affirmations or anything, has that kind of followed you through in adult life? Is it something you engage with frequently?
I'm very careful now. Like I'm so careful. Like it got to the point where I'll kind of say something and it'll happen within a week.
Can you say I'm going to win $1 million?
Oh, I wish. My gosh, that would be awesome. But I mean, like, you know, it is when they say to you, like the idea of manifestation, to me and my understanding of it, is an intention.
Yes.
And you have to believe it. Like it's not something you can instill in someone. It's something that they bring to themselves, and it's a mind game. Or, you know, if it's like telling someone who believes in God doesn't exist. Like no matter what you do, they believe in God.
Can't change their mind.
Do you know what I mean? And for me, I'm very like passionate about certain things, and I feel like that passion makes my intention so pure that if I want it, it will happen. Yeah. And you know, I'm very cautious with the circle of people around me as well. Like I'm that annoying person that says, watch your words. Yeah. Not that I'm being rude, but it's just like, you know, watch your words, because the power of your intention through that word is like magic. Yeah. And I find it to be so soothing. Like I don't look at it in a negative way. I find it's spiritually uplifting, and whether it's true or not, it gives me a sense of light and excitement. Yeah. And I look forward to these things. So definitely a lot of what's happened, I believe, has contributed to my own personal dreams and ideas and aspirations. And, you know, I'm probably not the smartest girl in the world or the most talented girl in the world, but I feel like because of that, I've been able to kind of, you know, tick off a lot of those goals. Yeah. That I wanted. For sure. You touched on a few, so obviously with the whole balance theory concept, there's your health, your relationships, and your fulfillment. So we've obviously just done a bit of a deep dive into your fulfillment and your why. And I think the reason, you know, you've been so successful, or you can continue to keep kind of pushing and evolving the brand and yourself within the brand, is because, you know, you have like you said, like you have a genuine intention for it, and that comes to light through your actions quite easily. Yeah. Now, you just also touched on relationships, and I think like the people you surround yourself with is like key 101 to, you know, who you are and what you put out there. You know, you kind of the negative Nancy in the corner and sort of be sharing your hopes and dreams with those people. So over your, I guess, success and as it's taken off, have you found that your groups have evolved accordingly? Most definitely. Yeah. Especially now getting married, you know, like even selecting my bridesmaids, it was like, how do you select these people? And it just came easy to me. And then I had one of those moments where I had to check in with myself, and I was so overwhelmed with love and gratitude that I had, that the women that are in my life, it's so funny. Like I've lived in 3 different countries, and I've literally been enrolled in 12 different schools. Wow. Yeah. So there's almost one every school year. There's actually one every school year. So I had pen pals for years. Like I'd be overseas and I'd be writing letters to my girlfriends, which we still keep and share till this day. That's so nice. And you know, like there are friends who entered my life at 13 and 15 and 20 and 25. And the most recent one, who like was one of my bridesmaid today, like I only met her 2 years ago, but I feel like I've known her all my life. And it's just kind of beautiful to see how, although they're different, there's 8 different women, different age groups, different generations, they all share a common thing that attracted me to them, vice versa. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's that connection or that understanding between you and that friend, to me, is so important.
Yeah.
Because I can remember different parts of my life where they've all contributed great things. And I'm sure they can say the same thing about myself. But put them all in a room, we're like the Spice Girls because they're just polar opposites.
Yeah.
We don't dress the same. We don't look the same. We don't have, like, none of them are in fashion.
Yeah.
They're
I guess
everywhere.
that's why, like, you all complement each other, though. You bring something
Absolutely,
different to the
of
table
course.
and then it's a complete
Yeah, but
table.
the one thing we do have in common is that unconditional friendship, that love, that support. Even though I've always been the weird one, they all loved me for who I am. You know what I mean?
Super important.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so with your health area of life, so that I guess looks like physical and mental.
Sure.
Do you have any like rituals or daily things you engage with in either of the areas?
OCD here.
Yeah, Miss OCD, let it out.
Absolutely. I really am. Like, I've always had a really, really good routine.
Yep.
And again, I didn't know I had that until I grew up and I realized that not everyone shares the same kind of little things, little
habits,
quirks that I do.
You think, are they weird or am I weird?
Yeah, like I've always really enjoyed my own company, which is
Yep.
ironic because I'm quite loud and I love socializing. But I love my own time. I find therapy obviously in creativity. Like, I love music.
Yeah.
I love to draw.
Creative outlets.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm not a big reader. And when I read, I have to read it 3 times for it to register because my brain goes places. But yeah, like, I've always had these little quirks. Again, like, you know, if I have a thought, you know, I write it or I draw it, and I feel like that kind of takes my brain into its own little place of happiness. So that's really good. So I've always been mentally, I'm very positive and always happy. I've always loved sport. So to me, that was another, like, I wouldn't sit with the girls that didn't want to play sport. I'd be with the boys trying to kick a ball.
Yeah.
You know, I'd always hurt myself.
Boys girl.
Not even. And I wasn't even their friend. Like, I was the serious girl on the field. I'd play with you, but I'm not your friend.
Oh,
do you know what I mean? I was always a girl's girl, but I didn't want to sit with the girls.
You're not there to muck around.
No,
Yeah.
I wanted to challenge the boys physically because I wanted to, that gave me a lot of sense of empowerment.
Yeah.
Maybe this is why I'm a boss today, because I always wanted to prove to the boys that I can be just as good as you.
Yeah.
And my dad came from a family of 9 boys, 3 girls.
Yeah.
So when my dad had 2 girls, my ethnic grandmother was like, mate, what's going on here? And Dad's like, well, you wait and see. He goes, if you think, you know, you're 9, he said to her, Lillian will amount to more than your 9 boys. And I think I heard him once say that, like, as a joke, and it just resonated.
The words they've carried through.
Yeah, and I just said, you know, why do I have to be a boy to achieve? Like, why do I have to be a boy to stand out? Like, I'm going to try and be school captain. I'm going to come first in the athletics carnival. I'm going to learn the languages and I'm going to do it all.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it was. And I felt like, I had this mindset. So in terms of health and even physical, like, I've always been the athletic girl from a very, very young age. And I've always, you know, had the little muscles and all of that sort of stuff, which I absolutely hate. But, you know,
they're not that little.
You grow
they're
and
beautiful.
you enjoy it. But I mean, like, you know, like, my sister will tell you she was born with it. And I'm like, I wasn't born with it. If you look back at my physical history, I've played sport all my life. I hate the gym. I don't even know how to use equipment in the gym.
Really?
No. I can't stand it.
Because you look at you and I think
You'd
like
think that.
You're a full bodybuilder machine.
No, absolutely not. But I do a lot of, like, I'm active.
Yeah. What's the secret? Share it.
Well, activity. Like, I've always had a great metabolism. I eat really well Monday to Friday. On the weekends,
that's my philosophy too.
Yeah, you know, so I've always had a good balance. I've never been on a diet. Yeah. No strict diet. Like, I've never been like, oh, get rid of carbs, get rid of sugar. I eat everything, but I don't like a lot of sugar.
Yeah.
Like, I have it in my tea, but that's about it.
Yeah.
You know, I love chocolate, but I don't like cake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's always been this kind of happy
medium
relationship with food.
Yeah.
I do realize when I'm very comfortable, I gain weight. So after I met Mo 2.5 years ago, I literally gained 6 kilos, which I've just lost.
Happy kgs.
Yeah. So I feel like, you know, my emotions play a big part in that as well.
Oh, for
but
sure.
overall, like, you know, I feel like I do have a really good balance.
Yeah.
And I do sometimes let myself go just for the sake of it because I don't want to put too much pressure. But I feel like when I hit that threshold, like I did during this whole, like, isolation period, I got on the scale for the first time in my life. I hit a particular number that I've never been in my entire life, and literally the next day I switched.
Yeah.
But it's just strange. Like, I switched, and my sister's like, "How do you go from 0 to 100?" And I'm like, because this does not accept it. Like, it's not even about the look.
Yeah.
For me, it's a state of mind.
Yes.
You know, feeling healthy is a mindset as
That's
well.
right.
And if there's something that's like holding me back, I'll push through it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened.
It's kind of like the reason I think you're so disciplined or so motivated to
Yeah.
keep in a certain way is because you have that mindset behind you. So that even if you do put on a few kilos or go a bit this way, a bit that way, like you've got a healthy relationship with those aspects of your life. And so you're happy to kind of go with the flow, but you know when to pull yourself back together.
Absolutely. I check in with myself. Like, I don't care about anyone else's opinion.
Yeah.
But I care about my own.
Yes.
And I don't put it on others either. Like, there's no blame game. There's nothing.
Yeah.
I'm very, very, very aware. So it's like when I gained that 6 kilos, I was like, yeah, well, that explains it. I was making like, I think I baked 7 loaves of banana bread in 2 weeks. I didn't eat it all because I was just learning.
Yeah.
But like every time I baked it.
Was the 7th one amazing though? Because you better hope so.
Freaking amazing. Absolutely it was. But I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I kept at it until I got it right. Like,
Yeah.
I've got that personality where I'm just going to keep at it until I get it right. And then, you know, I jumped on the scale and saw it and I was like, oh, shoot, I think you just went overboard. So let's go back to normal.
Yeah.
And then it was easy to get back there because I've been there before and I've done it before.
And you've got the rituals.
That's a really good thing. One thing I've learned over the years is if you've been able to reach that point before, you can definitely do it again.
Yes, definitely.
Do you know what I mean? And I feel like that philosophy has resonated with me over my lifetime because I remember one person said to me when I was 21, we were talking about success and they said if one man can do it, another can. Like, we're all equal in terms of people.
Yes.
And it's up to you as an individual to educate yourself. It's up to you as an individual to work out and train and get to where someone else has done it. You know what I mean? But for me, I don't compare myself to anyone anymore. So when I'm checking in with myself, I remind myself of my achievement before. I don't marinate in the thought of, look what you are today. Like, you've gained all this weight, blah, blah, blah.
That's
I'll be
right.
like, okay, that's all right. We've been there before. We can go back. Let's just follow the steps and see how we can do it again.
And do it again.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's good. So, like, it's not necessarily that, you know, like if you've done that before, then yes, you can definitely do it again. But if it's something new that you haven't done before, that's a good way to look at it. Like, look at all the things you have done.
Yeah.
And at one point, they were things you'd never done before.
Absolutely.
So there's always going to be that first time, shall we say.
Of course, definitely. And it's nice, like, when you have friends around you as well. Like, I speak to friends and I get their opinions.
Yeah, you
and
bounce
their
ideas. And
yeah, of course. And then obviously that's when you start learning new ways of dealing with situations.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you a question. But before I get there,
Yeah.
I am going to ask you what's been your biggest challenge to date. But before we get there, I just want to ask you, like, on the whole, in your whole life, from what you've been telling me, it sounds like you've been quite balanced. You've been quite in tune with yourself and your mindset. Not to say you haven't had down periods.
Oh, most definitely.
But on the whole, like, what do you think is the biggest thing behind why you've been able to maintain that equilibrium kind of for most of your life or even today?
Okay, so this kind of gets a bit deep. So for me, like, obviously having been misplaced, I know that sounds terrible to say about myself, but having hopped around for so long.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Bit here and there. Yep.
Everywhere. There was no balance. There was no balance. Like, it actually reached the point where I remember having nightmares as a child. And I was always like the girl in the Matrix. No word of a lie. I'd be like 9 years old, driving a car, trying to reach the pedals, trying to find home.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I once had that conversation with my mother, and my mother was like, oh my God. She looked at my dad and she's like, okay, we've moved these girls like too many countries, too many schools. There's obviously an imbalance there. There's this kind of feeling. No grounding. And I'm 34 years old today and it's happening again.
Yeah.
Like, now I'm moving to Melbourne. And when I met Mo, I said, I'll do anything in the whole entire world for you, but I will never move to Melbourne.
And here we are.
And here we are today. I'm moving to freaking Melbourne. Anyways, I'm not upset about it, but isn't it funny? Like, that is the one thing that I've never had.
Yes, like
I've never had
a base.
I say I've never had home, and it breaks my parents' heart. But I don't mean it per se.
Yes.
But it feels that way. Do you
It's
know what
almost
I mean?
like, I feel like home is, I guess, where the people you love are. But to say you grew up somewhere.
I haven't.
I mean, I can't say to the extent of what you have, but I have moved 14 times in my 25 years on Earth so far. So I kind of get what you're saying. Like, when people talk about the house they grew up in, I can't resonate with that
neither
either.
Can I. Like, I don't even, like, I obviously, like, a lot of, you know, people who know me from my community will say, oh, Lillian grew up in Bankstown. But if you count the years that I lived in Bankstown,
it's a fraction.
It doesn't even, it amounts to nothing.
Yeah.
You know, like, I've gone from Marrickville to Punchbowl to Bankstown to Syria to Lebanon back to here. You know, I've lived in Earlwood. Now we live in Illawong. Like I feel like we've been everywhere.
Yeah.
So that to me has been a personal challenge.
Yes.
And I feel like the reason why I've had that drive for so long was to kind of overcome that.
Mm-hmm.
To give myself a sense of purpose, like a reason to keep going.
Yes.
And try and pave my own world and my own home.
To find your own base.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the fact that things were so, I mean, chaotic may not be the right word, but I guess so ungrounded for so long, that everything that came after that was like comparatively kind of normal? Like you feel like maybe because that was such a challenge you went through at such a young age and kind of settled and found yourself, that things that came up after that, you were sort of like, well, I can kind of take it on, like a mentality that you could deal with it, because like you'd been through the dishwasher a few times.
100%. Like my sister's the only person that understands me. We're 18 months apart, so when she moved, I moved. Like that's why I don't even think my parents know like the bond and the connection that we have and why we connect the way we do. And it is for that reason. Do you know what I mean? It's like at the time we used to hate our life for it. Like I remember being in year 9 in the north of Lebanon in this like full-on nuns school, being like a Muslim Syrian girl at a Christian Lebanese school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was very confusing. And I remember at one stage I came back to my dad and I said, I hate my life. Like you really need to look at me and listen to me. I'm 15, but I'm telling you, I care about my life.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not just going to be somebody. I have this vision and this idea of where I want to be one day. And I said, you either listen to me now or I don't know what's going to happen. And I just literally just said it like that. We literally packed our bags and moved to Australia a week later.
And you stayed put?
Yeah, like, and Dad listened. He actually listened. And I think I was just fearful. I just thought my parents wouldn't care what I thought. But that moment in time obviously resonated with my father. Yeah. And he brought us back. And, you know, I feel like in that moment there, everything changed. However, when Dee and I sit down now, we have these conversations where like, no, like although we've been through it all, I would still go through it again. Yes. And in hindsight, it was the best years of our lives. You know, we used to cry and think, why the hell am I doing algebra in Arabic? This is too complicated. I was doing
because algebra is not hard enough already.
And then I'm like doing physics in Arabic and like biology, and I was just like, this isn't fair. Like,
no wonder you hate reading.
Yeah, but like now I have 2 languages that I speak fluently and that I read fluently. And I take so much pride in my culture, my traditions, the language that I know. To be able to express myself, you know, in that as well is just beautiful in itself. Yeah. And it's something I can now pass on to my children, my partner. So everything in hindsight makes a lot of sense. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be where I am today.
That's right. So do you think that anything from your upbringing or open up the floor, like anything else in general, what's been your biggest inspiration for what you do today?
Family. My dad, as I said, came from a family of 12 children, 9 boys, 3 girls. He's the 4th eldest. He left school at the age of 12. Yeah. By the time he was 16, he was living in a different state. He had his own atelier at the time. And everyone in the family has a degree except my father. Yet he's always been the breadwinner. And it wasn't his responsibility. That kind of unconditional, loving bond that he has with his family, I believe, has led Diane and I to be where we are today. And, you know, we owe them all of that because it's literally taught us to be humble, you know, to love each other unconditionally, to know that, you know, no matter what happens in the world, we have each other to keep that family, you know what I mean? And like you said, because of that mentality, no matter where we go, we always have that as our home. You know what I mean?
And I guess no matter what happens, because you've got each other, you can surmount it. You get through it.
And that is my inspiration, because whatever I do, it's like I want to impress my sister. I want to make sure she's okay. She's looked after. She's my business partner. So when I'm working or doing whatever I'm doing, we're doing it for us. Yes. You know, and Dad's always been quite selfless in that regard as well. Like anything he could contribute to make things easier for us, he's been there. Yes. Do you know what I mean? But at the same time, I don't want to disappoint him. Yeah. So it runs back to me. It's like Dad's helped me in these areas. I want to prove to him that I'm worth it. Yes. You know what I mean? And when people say to me, oh, you know, I met your dad the other day. He altered my pants and he's such a proud dad. That to me, I've made it in life. Yeah. I don't need to be in Vogue and I don't need to be on a podcast or anything. Knowing that my parents are proud of me, you know, when my mum walks around and she's like, oh, my daughter made my outfit. To me, that is more special than, you know, the biggest celebrity saying, oh, Lillian Khallouf dressed me today. Yes. You know,
no,
like,
I totally
it makes
resonate.
Me proud.
I totally resonate. Like I got a really, really strong mum as well. And she is my biggest inspiration. You know, everything she's done, she's kind of set the benchmark.
Absolutely.
And then the
That's
things
the
you
right way
do,
to put
you're
it.
always trying to like somehow reach that benchmark. I could never feel like I could surpass it.
Yeah.
But if I can just like hit it or,
Yeah.
or be close, then I think I've done well
Like
too.
the funniest thing ever was I was at this event where my dad was at, and he doesn't speak much English, so
Yeah.
he'll understand me, but like not much of it, because I speak to him Arabic all the time. Anyways, I was on the panel and I've got a microphone in my hand, and the whole room was looking at me, and all you saw was my dad and his teeth. He's just smiling, and then Diane's whispering into his ear, trying to like reinterpret what I'm saying.
you translate.
Translate everything. And I just sat there and I'm like, I don't think I'm nervous to be in front of these people. I'm actually like, I've got butterflies because my
For your
dad's
dad.
watching me, but he doesn't even understand what I'm saying. So I just got nervous just having him there. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was like a happy nervous,
Yes.
an excited nervous. Yeah.
It's kind of like this is the moment where you prove yourself.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
his face, he was just so proud, and I'm like, I'm done. That's it. If this is all I've done
I'm
in my
tapping
life,
out.
that's it. Mic down.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us what's next for LK?
Oh wow, it's such a good question. Like I said, because I've known myself to be a fashion designer forever, I'm not done. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I'm not done, but I'm ready for something else.
Okay.
It's so weird. Like, everyone went through this at 17, 18, even like after uni. I felt like a lot of my girlfriends, and you could probably relate now, like with what
Yeah.
you do, you know, like
changing it up,
yeah,
picking something
See,
else.
I've never done that.
Yeah.
I've never, ever, ever thought about anything other than what I do today.
But I feel like when you're so passionate about what you're doing,
Yeah.
you're almost not distracted. Like, for
No.
example, there are things in my 9 to 5
Yeah.
that I don't personally get that I'm passionate about, like connecting with people on like a meaningful personal way.
Sure.
And so I've found other outlets to do that through
Yeah.
through fitness, through the
Okay.
podcast, things like that.
That makes
But I feel like if your business has given you everything you're seeking in a
Yeah.
fulfillment category,
That's right.
then you maybe haven't looked, but maybe you're at a point now where
I don't know. I feel like I'm ready for something else, but still creative, still
Yeah.
artistic. Like, I love interior. I love architecture. I love fine art.
you do LK interiors.
I don't know. I don't even know if I'd call it LK. Just the opportunity to kind of like explore
Something new.
skill sets.
Yeah.
Like, even in terms of painting, like Mo was so cute when we first met. Like, I'd always say to him, like, I don't have time to paint. I just want to like pull out a canvas and paint. And then once I visited him in Melbourne, and he was so cute. He went and bought me an easel.
Oh.
He bought me a canvas and all this paint and a glass of wine. And I was like, who are you? I love
do.
you.
Let's do it
That's
now.
it. I'm
Let's
done.
do it
Let's
right
get
now.
married. And I thought it was so sweet. And I was just like, and he got all that for me, and I never made time. And
Yeah.
during the isolation period, you know, I thought to myself, well, this is your moment. And every time I'd walk towards that paper, I'd take 2 steps back. There was this thing, like, I was quite fearful. Like, it was something new, and I know I'm good at it. And I know once I start, I won't stop, but
Yeah.
that's the problem. And I kind of hesitated. And then I sat there, and then I one day just got up, and I literally did like 8 frames in one day.
Wow.
Like, it was literally sickening. I pulled out that, like, put the paper. I didn't even have an easel because I'd left it in Melbourne. And I was on the floor, literally with paint. My whole floor was stained.
How many wines deep is this in?
Probably a whole bottle, to be honest with you. It was terrible.
They
But it was
would have
such a
been-
great day. It was such a great day.
Yeah, please invite me next
Yeah,
time.
definitely. And it was so much fun. And I said, I think my soul is yearning for this.
Yeah.
And then I thought about it, and I said, well, why don't I just literally like look into courses or to upskill? Because
Yeah.
no matter what I do creatively, it's always going to complement my current job.
Of course.
It's, if anything, I feel like I'm ready for that spark of inspiration. Like, maybe if I learn a new skill set, you know, may it be like, you know, it could be something digital. Like, I'm not really good at Photoshop or the Adobe programs. Like, if I kind of dabbled in that, it's always going to complement
What you're doing now.
Like, if I did a graphic design course, it's going to complement fashion design.
Yeah.
If I do interior, it's going to complement, like, my brain lives for that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
it will just come to me. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I thought, you know, why not? So I'm not going to lie to you, I'm exploring some options because I'm moving
Exciting.
to Melbourne, and
Yeah.
I'll have a lot, well, I think I'll have a lot of time, but, you know, somehow I'll manage. I really want to study something, and, you know, I've never really gotten a degree before, so I thought this could be an opportunity to kind of go down that path, and we'll see where that goes.
Why not?
Yeah.
It's exciting.
I know, it
Well, I'm
is.
looking forward to seeing what you do with
Thank
the
you.
brand and where else you gift your creativity to.
Thank
Because
you.
it is, you have a very unique style.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, please don't finish up the suits just
No,
yet, because I definitely need to order a
absolutely
few.
not. My goodness, that will definitely be there. It's in my DNA.
Yeah.
That will never go anywhere, and I don't
Good
think
to
I'd
know.
ever let it go.
Yeah.
For me, like, I think that's where I found home
Yeah.
all my life, in that world.
That's a nice way to look at it.
It is. I know it for sure. Like, that is home to me. That familiarity and that kind of like belonging.
Yeah, well, maybe it's like the reason you stuck to it for 20 odd years is because you, like you said, you found home in it, and now that you're getting married, maybe like that sense of home is shifting, and you're creating a new home with your partner now, and so work can kind of.
Thanks for that. I think you just put it into perspective. That's strange.
No, it is interesting. Like though, when people hear it from a different point of view, it's like now work can kind of evolve differently because you're not hinging on that for like this is home.
Maybe this is why it's taken me this long to find a man.
Maybe we've cracked the code.
Honestly, it makes so much sense because I always found home in work, but I never found home in a man
or other people.
And now with Mo, like it's so different. Like I can't even explain it. It's strange.
Well, I mean, easels and wine at home would
Mate, that
would be homey for me as well. No, that's nice. I'm really happy for you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So looking back now, if you could have given yourself advice when you were on the plane just about to come to Australia, right? I can't imagine how you were feeling, not knowing when am I going to be back in Syria? Like, is this temporary again? And having all these, visions about where you're going, but not really knowing how you're going to get there, and kind of being frustrated with your parents, but so close with your sister, all these things happening. What advice would you have given to yourself?
Stop putting pressure on yourself. I put so much pressure on myself to be perfect.
Yes.
To get the 10 out of 10, to get the 100 over 100. Like, I put so much pressure, and I would just say to myself, just be the best version of you, because I feel like that's what I aspire to be every day when I roll out of bed. I don't aspire to be the best fashion designer or the best friend or the best partner in the world or any of that. My philosophy within me is to be the best version of myself today. I feel like that's it, really.
Yeah, I think that's great, because you need to strive for progress, not perfection. Nobody is perfect. Like,
absolutely.
Like both you and I, like in our own lives, obviously you wake up and you be the best version of yourself, and that's all you can do. You can't be perfect. It doesn't exist.
I think I heard you say it in one of your podcasts, where you were saying, like, even when you aspire to set a goal, like when you want to reach a goal, when you get to that goal, the next one pops up.
That's right.
So you're never done.
That's it.
There's no ending.
And the ceiling keeps.
Success. And I meet so many successful people on so many different levels, and everyone's interpretation of success is different to the other.
That's right.
Like, I might want to have a home. Someone else wants a Ferrari. He can't tell me that you're not successful because you don't have a Ferrari.
That's right.
And I can't tell him you're not successful because you don't have a house. Everyone's success journey is their own. And it's true what they say. Like, sometimes you look at someone and you're like, what are they chasing? They're a millionaire.
Yes.
But they're missing something.
Yeah.
Which is beyond the millions.
That's it.
Do you know what I mean? To you, the millions might seem like success because you don't have it.
That's right.
You know what I mean? But that person has it, but they have a different goal that they need to find within them to make them feel successful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, for me, I was so fortunate that I learned that at a very young age. So to me, wealth is within me.
Yes.
And I feel so wealthy. And especially after finding Mo, because I wanted love for so long, and I'm just a passionate lover.
Yeah.
That to me, I knew that once I had love in my life, I knew I'd be wealthy.
Complete circle.
Yeah, because, and even my relationship is not perfect. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure it has its own flaws, but it fulfills me. And it adds something to my day-to-day. Like, even my employees will tell you when Lily fell in love, it was a different Lily. You know what I mean? I'm walking on my toes, and my parents will tell you the same, because that meant something to me. So that was my interpretation of success.
That's right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So, I think that is a nice thing to remember as well, especially in a digital age where, people going online and looking at other people's profiles, you can look at someone's account and think they're successful, but you have no idea what the quality of their relationships are like. Even if money is part of your definition of success, which, let's be honest, it does form a big part. You don't know how much money's in those people's accounts, what debt they have. You don't know, what they're going through physically in their health.
And I'm a manifester. I can make you believe anything you want to see because it's so easy to do that. Yeah. It's so damn easy. Yeah. But when you connect with humans on a one-to-one basis, that's when you uncover the truth.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You can fake an Instagram account, but you can't fake a personality.
Yeah.
You can't fake someone's energy.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And to me, the biggest compliment I ever get is when you walk into a room, I feel your energy and I want to be around you. Like, to me, that's the biggest compliment. They didn't tell me how hot I am or how gorgeous my outfit was. They're like, I want to be around you because I like the way you make me feel, you know? And I'm like, wow, like that's powerful.
Yes.
You can't feel that through Instagram.
No, but I think we have fallen into a bit of a digital age where people do kind of, you know, look at other people's accounts and aspire to be like that. But I think it's important to take a step back and, you know,
absolutely.
It's those people are real people too.
100%.
You know, you've got to detach.
And a lot of them are really good at doing that, to be honest with you. That they are the way they are on social media, but when you meet them in person, they're nothing like that.
Blank canvas.
That's what I'm saying. So like, for me, you know, God willing, like I want to have children one day. And for me, I would be really, really conscious. Like that's one thing I would be focusing on, is reminding them that they're enough, reminding them that, you know, you don't need to be like anybody else. You do you. Be the best version of yourself, aspire your own goals and, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, someone's always going to be better at something. You can't be good at everything. You know, like you're a better designer than I am. Like, you know, everyone's just always going to be better at something. And there's, you know, you've always got to have something to work towards, but there's always going to be people behind you too. You're always 100%. On a journey. It's just
and it should be fun.
That's right. The process is what's enjoyable.
Honestly, like I feel like that's made my life perfect in my eyes.
Yes.
Is the fact that I've been through it all, and those little flaws is what makes it beautiful.
The little specks in the diamonds.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with us today, sharing your story, and you know, it is true. You do have a beautiful energy about you.
Thank you.
So I hope you stay and have a bit more tea with me.
Yes, definitely.
But yeah, thank you so much, and I can't wait to see what you do with the brand.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. See you guys.
And that's a wrap for this week, Balancers. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you found this episode useful to some degree in either steering or determining your definition of balance today. As always, the biggest compliment for us is if you share this episode with someone who you feel might need it, or if you're on Spotify, you can click follow, or on Apple Podcasts, you can leave a rating or review. If you have any suggestions for up and coming podcasts, feel free to shoot us a DM or an email. Our Instagram is @TheBalanceTheory and our email is thebalancetheorypodcast@gmail.com. Otherwise, you've always got the option of subscribing to our mailing list. We only send you email reminders when the episodes drop, so you get them fresh out of the oven. No annoying spam, we promise. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week, and until next time, stay balanced.